Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we continue training and mentoring the Manchester University Wasp survey team on September 5th, 2024, as we remove a very large and active German Yellowjacket nest that had to be cut out of the Soffit cavity under the eaves of a private residence. This was a massive nest. They were bringing back a lot of insect protein, as you see here, so we spent a long time just collecting hundreds and hundreds of foragers until we had probably 1,000 in the first collection bottle. Then we had to remove 3 layers of material, first the metal covering, then the plastic soffit, and then the wood underneath to get to this nest. The nest was over 2 feet long, and it was absolutely filled with pupae, larvae, eggs, and other worker wasps. We were able to collect thousands of adult wasps for Venom Immunotherapy during the removal itself, and then we relocated the brood comb into captivity back at the barn lab, where we could incubate many more pupae in this nest until they hatched out into adult wasps. We'll show you the entire process, from the removal in the field to freezing the wasp specimens in dry ice to preserve their venom, and we'll take you through the process of incubation collection and what that looks like over a couple weeks period, and we'll show you how we captured the queen during one of those collections. So for now, let's take you back to the very beginning of this job, where we did the initial inspection on September 1st, 2024, and we did the removal on September 5th. September 1st, 2024, very active yellowjacket nest. Looks like it's in the soffit, possibly in a wall cavity. Probably German Yellowjacket, but we'll have to get a species ID later. I'm here with Katie from the Wasp survey team at Manchester University, and we're looking at a German Yellowjacket nest. That's Vespula Germanica, and they're coming in to land here. They're crawling down this soffit and going into a cavity space, which we think is probably right here. This soffit bay is probably filled with that nest. So most likely we can access it through the soffit below and just pull it out. So we'll do some swarm control first by vacuuming up as many as we can get, and then we'll remove the nest. Katie's setting up our pole vac system today so we can stay off of the ladder as long as possible while we do the collection here. It's always best to stay off of ladders if you can. You can extend it out, whatever's comfortable. I'll give you a little more slack. So as you see here, we put up some duct tape to force the wasps to go into a smaller part of the crevice between the 2 pieces of aluminum that made up some of the soffit structure. And that's just to make it easier to collect them. When they're able to go through a long crevice like this, it's a couple of feet long, it takes much longer to collect them. But if you can force them to go into one particular smaller space, then it's just quicker and more efficient, because we can put the collection device right up to the part where we want the wasps to enter and exit. And it's interesting to watch them in slow motion. You see how many of them are carrying food in their mandibles, pieces of chewed up insect meat. This is the reason why wasps are so important to the ecosystem, is because they're out there every day, all day, collecting pest insects. So you'll see a lot of wasps in this footage coming back in with pieces of food in their mandibles that they're going to bring into the nest. And that's what they feed the larvae inside the nest. The larvae eat protein exclusively. So the protein is in the form of insect meat that's brought in from the field, and a lot of these wasps are in the process of doing that. Those that don't have large chunks of food in their mouths, they may have either gone out for nectar or liquids or water, and they might be bringing back fluids, or sometimes they've chewed up some insect meat and they have sort of a fluid inside their stomachs which they can then regurgitate for the larvae when they get back to the nest. And they can also share it with each other through a process of trophallaxis, which is mouth-to-mouth feeding. That's how all wasps eat and share food and liquids inside the nest. So this nest was extremely active. There was a lot of foraging going on. So you'll see a lot of wasps leaving and you'll see a lot of wasps arriving. They just do this cyclically all day long. They'll leave, forage, hunt, return. Leave, forage, hunt, return. They just continue this cycle all day long, and they end up wiping out thousands and thousands of pest insects in the local environment. And this is why they are so crucial to the ecosystem in general. Worldwide, wasps are some of the most important predators that we have. They help control the population of so many other insects that without them, on a global scale, around the entire planet, pest insects would immediately overpopulate without wasps. That's every type of wasp. Flower wasps, yellowjackets, hornets, parasitoid wasps, which are tiny little wasps that can keep control of very small pest insects. So this is why we encourage people to leave wasps alone. If you can possibly leave them where they are and let them thrive, that's great. On the other hand, if they're in a dangerous place where they might cause a sting risk, you have to remove them. And that's where we come in. So Katie keeps her spine and her neck neutral. Rather than cranking her neck up to see everything here, she just sets the device in a good spot. And then for ergonomics, she keeps her neck neutral. Very important in this job, otherwise you can end up with a lot of neck problems at the end of the day. Good collection so far. There we go. Right up in there. Yeah, a little higher right there. That's good. We're going to freeze the frame here for a second. Take a look at the size of the food they're bringing back. They can carry large amounts of food. In this case, it looks like some type of cricket leg or something they're bringing back. And that just shows you the size of the insect that they can actually control in the environment. They're not all small insects. They can control quite large insects as well. Got a whole cricket leg in its mouth. Big, long, dangling cricket leg hanging out of its jaws, bringing it back to the nest. We're going to freeze the frame here. We'll show you a paper wasp landing just above where this nest is. And that just goes to show you there's a myth out there that wasps don't like living near other wasps. That's just simply not true. We see all kinds of species living together all the time. This is a northern paper wasp, one of our very beneficial native species around here. Here we'll slow the footage down. You see the wasp coming in and landing right there above the collection device. So there's a paper wasp nest up above this nest. So we might get a few of those by accident. Only a few seconds later, we then saw a blue mud wasp coming out of the same entry and exit hole that the Yellowjackets were using. So within a few inches of each other, we have a mud wasp, a paper wasp, and a Yellowjacket nest. So we'll slow this down. Check out this wasp right here, exiting the soffit. This is a bright blue mud wasp operating right out of the same soffit space as the Yellowjacket nest. So the bottom line is, if there's enough resources to go around, they're perfectly happy to live in close proximity to their neighbors. Here we'll slow it down again so you can watch how wasps navigate changes in their environment. As you see them coming back to the nest after they've been out foraging, they are visually orienting here, which is why they're floating around what used to be a long open crevice that would lead them into their nest. They visually orient when they come back. And you can see here that it takes them a minute to figure out what's going on with the change in their environment. They see the duct tape, they see the suction device, and they begin orienting around to try to figure out how to get home and to assess any threats. And they explore the collection device. And in that process of them checking out this weird-looking collection bottle that suddenly showed up at their front door, they eventually get sucked up into the collection bottle. The key with venom collection, specifically for wasps, is patience. You have to set up your gear in such a way that you have the best chance at collecting live wasp specimens that are not damaged. And that way, when we flash freeze them later to preserve their venom, the venom itself is in the best, most viable condition for later biomedical use. So there are many ways to do this faster. If we were just trying to kill the wasps to get them out of the house for the clients, we could do this quicker. But to do it right, to do it carefully, and to do it in a way that's the most professional for biomedical venom collection, we have to have patience. And we set up the gear in such a way that the wasp will ultimately be collected while alive. And no matter how long it takes, we're going to collect as many live specimens as we can, rather than just going in, tearing out the nest, and leaving. Because our job is to collect as many venom sacs, essentially, which is what each wasp has. Each female worker wasp that we collect has a venom sac, and that is what is useful to biomedical venom collection for venom immunotherapy. They collect all the venom sacs, they remove the venom from those venom sacs, and that is the product that will ultimately be used for injections for people with anaphylactic allergies to wasp venom. And they'll be treated with these injections in clinics over a period of 3 to 5 years, and they will end up immune to wasp venom. And that is the ultimate goal, saving lives with the wasps we collect. So we get comments now and then from viewers who are curious as to why we take so long to do various steps in what we're doing. This is the reason. We need the most effective, most efficient way to collect a wasp alive so that we can preserve their venom for later use in the venom immunotherapy business. So in other words, we are not pest control operators. We are not exterminators. We are a venom collection business. And that is an entirely different business with entirely different goals than simply removing a wasp nest from a structure. So the methods we use are going to be different than what you might see on a pest control channel, for example, where they just go in, tear everything out, poison everything sometimes, and leave. That is the standard way to get rid of wasps, is you go in and you dump poison powder all over them, or you spray them with all kinds of toxic chemicals, sometimes dumping it right into people's living spaces, which is insane in our opinion, but it happens all the time. That is not what we do. The goal in everything we do is not to simply kill the wasps. It's to preserve the wasps for biomedical use. That's the bottom line. So all the activity you see on these removals is aimed at that goal. So as we stand by while the collection device does most of the work, we collect lots of the foragers coming back. We'll probably have at least 1,000 in this collection today. because right now they're all concentrated going into the entry that they're used to going into. And if we just hover right by that entry with our collection device, we'll just get hundreds and hundreds of them without having to really do a lot of collection after the fact. It's all in advance of opening up the soffit and pulling the nest. So the collection's going fine. We're going to make the collection a little more efficient now by banging them out. Let's see if we can get more of them to come out and swarm. So we rigged up a bungee cord and we're just letting the pull vac do the work for now, automated. Again, it's about ergonomics. The more you can automate everything, the less you have to deal with fatigue in the field. Job after job, it'll catch up with you, so you do what you can to allow the machines to do the work. So we placed some duct tape over part of the cracks that they've been using in the soffit in order to steer them closer to the suction device. So on each side of the suction device, that crevice has been closed with tape, and that forces them into our collection area when they want to enter the nest. All right, so we've got a good collection going so far. Got a lot of the foragers rounded up, and there's plenty more out there. But for now, we're going to take a look inside this soffit. Well, it looks like there's a lot of wood structure in there, so we're going to need to get this whole piece off. Okay. They're going to be in the soffit, hopefully. Looks like there's wood here. We're going to have to remove the layer of wood that's up underneath this. So we'll have to cut out a section of that wood, and they'll be in this bay probably. So I'm going to have to remove all of this stuff. Okay, Katie is going to cap off so that we can pop the soffit off of this and get access to the nest. And we'll just not run the vacuum while we do that. We'll take a look inside this thing real quick. Very active collection. Great. All right, let's get that soffit out of there. So now we're going to use a scope camera to look inside of the soffit bay a little bit where we can't reach it. It's just a fiber optic cable. So here we're just exploring the rest of the soffit cavities around where we think the nest is. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that we're not missing any additional nests, maybe up in the top part of the soffit or over adjacent to where we think the nest is. But whenever we inspect soffit bays, we also inspect everything around that bay. And that's what we're doing here. After inspecting the upper soffit, we went ahead and took a break to freeze the first collection bottle, as you see here. So we're going to remove the insulation material. Then it was time to drill an access hole for the scope cam, and that's what we're doing here. We're just putting a small hole in the piece of wood that covers the lower soffit where we think the nest is, and the scope cam just verifies that it's actually there, the nest, before we cut that wood away. The scope cam's great because without it, you'd be cutting a ton of different wood away and removing lots of soffit and so forth for no reason. If you don't know where the nest is, you just have to remove a ton of material. And if the nest is not there, then you just tear up this structure for no purpose. So the scope cam just eliminates a lot of unnecessary material removal. It's basically the best exploratory tool we have in our whole kit. We got the nest. Scope cam found it right up above that soffit. Probably the next best tool in our kit is the oscillating multi-tool. It's an oscillating saw. It just cuts through everything. Metal, wood, plastic, anything you have, it will cut it out of the way with a nice, neat, easily controlled cut. Really a great tool. So if we had to recommend two tools that were absolutely key to this work to anybody considering this job or anybody who's in the field and needs some better gear, get a scope cam, get an oscillating multi-tool, and you can't go wrong. You'll be able to get through just about any kind of cutout required. So we found the nest. Takes up the whole soffit bay, as we expected it might. It has multiple layers. So as we show you what's inside this soffit bay, it was a massive nest. It was longer than 2 feet long easily, and it had a huge amount of workers and pupae and larvae and eggs inside the nest. So what you actually see here are the small yellow grub-like larvae that are around the outer edge of the comb structure you see there. And then you see some white silk caps. Those are the pupae, which are larvae that have woven a silk cap over their own cell. And they do this through a protein substance that they have in glands inside their mouth. It's a gel-like material that hardens into a very strong silk thread as soon as it hits oxygen. And they just weave that material back and forth over their cell until there's a solid white silk cap. And they'll stay in that for a couple of weeks until they pupate into adult wasps. So as you see here, as we're inspecting around the edges of the nest to get the general circumference of it and understand the size and the bulk of it, the wasps are not attacking. They're just kind of going about their business on the nest. We've already collected the vast majority of foraging wasps and guard wasps and so forth that would attack. So generally speaking, swarm control is a huge part of what we do. We're going to have to cut more this way because the nest goes all the way back. So here we had to remove another section of the wood soffit, and once we did that, we found the other side of the nest borders. So the entire nest length, a little over 2 feet long, and filled up that entire soffit base space. A lot of the material you see on the left and the right side is just paper envelope that they use to protect the brood comb of the nest. And the brood comb was probably at least the size of medium pizzas. They were huge. So as we worked on removing the soffit and getting access to the nest and assessing the whole size of the thing, there was still a constant stream of foragers coming back to the nest, trying to enter through the space above where the nest is exposed here. So they kept going back into the entry that they were used to, which is very handy for us. As they keep coming in, we can keep collecting them that way. The engineering on a nest like this is pretty amazing. If you look at all the paper material that covers the brood comb, that in particular is really an interesting material. It's made from wood and plant fibers that they bring back and mix with their saliva into a paper mache type material, and it feels a little bit like a Chinese lantern. That's the thickness of the paper, and it's really beautiful. Many colors depending on the different wood material that they collect, and it comes from all different sources around the local area. So the outer paper envelope is the perfect material to protect against heat, against cold. It provides ventilation. So all of the nooks and crannies and holes that you see in that paper are very specifically arranged to provide the perfect temperature and perfect ventilation for the inner brood comb. So here we examine where they're coming in from the inside of the soffit space, and we compare that to where they're coming in on the outside. So you can see as they come in underneath this soffit space, they walk in through the damaged wood and the spaces between the wood panels on the inside of the soffit area. So you see where they're entering here. And they're coming in right there. So now we just have to collect all the rest of these foragers. But the nest has been contained. In this container. The queen will be in this container between the layers of comb. This is why we wear an extra layer of gloves. Check out this beautiful paper. Gorgeous colors. It's got almost reds running through it from one source of wood they've picked up. Like a really dark red wood of some kind. Just beautiful. Mixed in with greens and grays and whites, cream tones. Absolutely beautiful paper. Beautiful colors. So this one will contain the paper. And this one will contain the nest. Big nest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-layer nest. Including the smallest one that fell off. So now we just have to collect all of the rest of the flying foragers, and then we're done. So there's some more hanging on to the old paper of the nest. And we'll come in here and vacuum these up too. Here's the second bottle of Yellowjackets, German Yellowjackets. It's Vespula Germanica. Pulled out of the Soffit bag. Now we're going to go ahead and freeze this batch. So we're back to do follow-up now, a couple hours later. And as you can see, they're clustered in here where the nest used to be. So what we have now is we rigged a special collection device. Basically, it's the same rig we started with, except we add a hose to it that can get into all these nooks and crannies where they're at. So we've sprayed with essential oils and soap and water, and now we're just scrubbing away any nest debris to help remove their pheromone and make it less appealing for them to come back in general. We've got the essential oil mix just sitting on the roof for convenience. So we just let it down up there. Now that most of the nest debris is removed, we'll spray it one more time, soak it down pretty good up there, and then close it up. And then we'll spray up here at their entry to deter them, the last of the foragers that are coming back. All right, so now we're doing a German Yellowjacket nest, a large one we took out of somebody's Soffit eaves the other day. It's quite a large nest with big pizza-sized comb. There's one layer, another layer. Now let's peel this one back. We should find the queen here pretty soon, so keep your eye out for that. There's your queen. Now let me film her before you take her. So we always want to locate the queen just to make sure that she's not remaining in the space we removed her from. See the large wasp there? Much larger than the others. That's our queen. She's hiding from us right now, but there she is right there. This nest was very active. This was a super busy queen making thousands of wasps. So it was good to get her collected. See her? Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead. Where'd that queen go? She hide again?
Right there?
Yep, there she is. September 11th, 24. So here for the next collection, you'll see that every wasp in this bin has been born in the bin. It doesn't know any other world, so it doesn't try to fly away. It doesn't really try to attack. It just gets collected right off of the comb as we vacuum them up. They're pretty docile when they are unaware that they can get out. They don't generally try to get out once we open it up. So the nest can be collected like this for several times in a row, but we have to be careful because moisture and so forth will cause the nest to rot a little bit if we leave it in there too long. So we can only do a couple of these while it's in the bin, and then we have to move it into a drier location, which you'll see later in the video. So we're going to speed this up for time just to show you the process, but this really does illustrate why we never destroy combs in the field. We always bring them back to pupate them one way or the other. We can always get many, many dozens more wasps collected simply by letting these pupate out. September 14th, 2024. Just taking a look at this habitat. It'll be ready for collection here shortly. These are German Yellowjackets from a nest we collected the other day. Plenty here to collect for VIT at this point. That's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you enjoy the content on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. We'll be uploading plenty more episodes throughout the fall and winter of 2024 into 2025, just to show you all the adventures we had with the Manchester University Wasp survey team and other removals we did throughout the 2024 Wasp season. Thanks for being here. Have a good one.